But be assured that whatever county in America you live in today, you have an Agenda 21 Sustainable Development Program in process that is working to affect the goals of Agenda 21, which can really be summarized in 3 points and supported by the documents prepared at the United Nations. Those 3 points are, first, the abolition of private property. This is why the pressure is mounting on landowners across America. Soon that battle is going to shift into suburban neighborhoods, and the battle for the resettlement of our suburban neighborhoods will begin. Agenda 21 will not stop its process until all the world is collectivized. Sustainable development policy has infiltrated almost everything. In that regard, it is worth noting that the Grand Old Party is a member of the International Democrat Union, or IDU.org. That's worth remembering that because you want to check this out. Now, the IDU is comprised of 80 self-proclaimed right-of-center political parties who are combined in order to dedicate to the universal adoption of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Government, under our declaration, is to protect the natural or unalienable rights of each individual, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, those rights that our teachers will never tell our children about. In contrast, the UN Declaration of Human Rights is about community rights. It is to control the individual for the greater good of the global community.
I come to Berlin as so many of my countrymen have come before. Although tonight I speak to you not as a candidate for president, but as a citizen. A proud citizen of the United States and a fellow citizen of the world. While the 20th century taught us that we share a common destiny, the 21st century has revealed a world more intertwined than at any time in human history. The fall of the Berlin Wall brought new hope. But that very closeness has given rise to new dangers. Dangers that cannot be contained within the borders of a country or by the distance of an ocean. Think about it. The terrorists of September 11 plotted in Hamburg and trained in Kandahar and Karachi before killing thousands from all over the globe on American soil. As we speak, cars in Boston and factories in Beijing are melting the ice caps in the Arctic, shrinking coastlines in the Atlantic, and bringing drought to farms from Kansas to Kenya.
The fact that the people live in faraway lands does not mean that their fate does not concern us. Mm-hmm. It's not only for humanitarian and charitable reasons that we have to be interested in them. We have to practical, yeah. Yes, because fundamentally, in the kind of global civilization we live in today, no country can insulate itself from what some of the things that are happening in other countries. I mean, for instance, diseases cross boundaries. Pollution crosses boundaries. Absolutely. The same CO2 emissions that go into the atmosphere in China or in the United States, go into the same atmosphere and affect the climate change.
The same ice caps at the polar areas. Yes.
So no longer can it, the old, what was it, Dunn who said, no man is an island? Well, also no nation today is an island. And that's why we have to have a degree of cooperation beyond anything we have ever yet experienced.
If I can just say this, at these summits, compared, I've seen it progressively at each summit and certainly a big change from what I saw at summits in the past. You're seeing more and more countries around the table think globally.
Now, the second major program for this collectivization is called the Global Citizenship Education Program. This is best evidenced by review of the federal No Child Left Behind legislation and all the series of legislations that have come along in the last several decades following the establishment of the Federal Department of Education. You see, Agenda 21 comes into the United States because President George Bush Sr., this is 1992, went to Rio de Janeiro, and on Prince Charles's yacht, he signed to the American agreement to the standards of Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, and he promised to return to America and infest every federal agency with Agenda 21 principles.
The question has been asked many times how the people who are perpetrating these things expect to do this and make it last. And the answer to that is that you steal a generation of children and you indoctrinate them so that they accept these ideas and they become global citizens in the coming global village.
UNESCO came out and declared 2005 to 2015 the decade of education for sustainable development. But they go on to say that it will encompass the 40 chapters of Agenda 21. That is your federal national curriculum. The entire purpose of second grade social studies is to transfer loyalty from the family to the government and teach them about sustainable economic consumption. Students construct their own understandings of reality and realize that objective reality is not knowable. So why bother? The truth is, the truth, which keeps men free, is being suppressed in order to prop up the attitude training agenda. Generally, more highly educated people who have higher incomes consume more resources than poorly educated people, who tend to have lower incomes. In this case, more education increases the threat to sustainability.
I think that this will be the moment at which the people who have been plotting this for the last 20 years will finally get what they want, which is this nucleus which can then be grown into a world government. Let's go to Sir Maurice Strong, a senior official of the UN. He has long been quite open about his desire to establish a world government, by which he does not mean a democratic government.
Nations must accept responsibility for the consequences of their actions on others. In my view,
we are united as one family on one home in this universe, and it's called the Earth, and it is the home of all of us.
Today you can review the websites of any federal agency and you can find references to Agenda 21 or Sustainable Development regularly. But what's more important, you see the policies coming out from our federal government into every state and every county are in the process of implementing this global regime.
The treaty-making power, the Constitution says in Article 6, this Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. It says that treaties made under the authority of the United States shall be the law of the land. But does the President, with the concurrence of the Senate, have the authority to use a treaty to supersede the Constitution? The founders emphatically say no. Let's turn to them for their opinions regarding treaty law. Alexander Hamilton stated, "The only constitutional exception to the power of making treaties is that it shall not change the Constitution. On natural principles, a treaty which should manifestly betray or sacrifice primary interests of the state would be null." That's pretty clear. Treaty-making power is limited. James Madison is the father of the Constitution, and he stated, "I do not conceive that power is given to the President and the Senate to dismember the empire or alienate any great essential right. I do not think the whole legislative authority to have this power." Again, that's very clear. The treaty-making power is limited. And Thomas Jefferson, reflecting on the attitude of our nation's leaders at the time, stated, "I say the same as to the opinion of those who consider the grant of treaty-making power to be boundless. If it is, then we have no Constitution."
And what are we doing instead? At Copenhagen, this December, weeks away, a treaty will be signed. Your president will sign it. Most of the third world countries will sign it because they think they're going to get money out of it. Most of the left-wing regimes around the world, like the European Union, will rubber stamp it. virtually nobody won't sign it. I have read that treaty, and what it says is this, that a world government is going to be created.
As far as trying to go up against the government, it's just, unless the whole country did it, I guess.